And we'll go straight to business because this has been making rounds for the past 2 days. And the first $1 million question that everybody has been asking is, how would a stable supply of fuel and circulation of naira notes translate to election victory for the APC candidate? You saw him there at the presidential campaign rally in Abeokuta, and he alluded to the fact that some people are trying to sabotage him by having scarcity of naira notes and, of course, the scarcity of fuel. So what exactly is the nexus between an election victory, fuel scarcity, and new banknotes?
Well, he knew what he's talking about, and don't also forget that he's an old war horse. He's a former governor. And in election, intrigues are part of election. Sabotage. Recall that in 2015, the administration of Goodluck Jonathan was alleged to have orchestrated the abduction of the Chibok girls in 2014. Or that it did not do the needful, and that was why that abduction was possible. That was what the opposition said. And in this context, you also must understand that in the opinion of the federal government, particularly President Muhammadu Buhari, he felt he has done all that needed to be done, and is amazed that the fuel scarcity still persisted. Recall that a couple of days ago, he actually had to set up a 14-man panel to look into how to resolve this lingering fuel scarcity. This has been on since January last year in my neck of wood here in Abuja. Throughout 2022, I can count the number of times that I was able to source fuel at the official retail outlets. For most part of 2022, I actually had to source from black market at about 300 naira per liter on the average. And so one will have expected that the administration of Muhammadu Buhari will have succeeded in abating the fuel scarcity. But unfortunately, that's not to be. And I recall that in the design naira notes, a lot of people have said the political undertone to it may actually be to ban or undermine those who may want to stock the old naira notes to buy votes to prevent them from doing so. And you remember that there was controversy about the withdrawal limit of the new naira note. At some point before Governor Emefiele, the central bank governor, bowed to pressure and expanded or increased the withdrawal limit from initial 100,000 per week to, I think, by individual, I think now is 200,000 thereabout. Yeah. Anyway, the bottom line is this: whether we like it or not, the opposition that are contesting with APC and with Tinubu in this forthcoming election are very powerful, and they can orchestrate anything. And don't forget that Muhammadu Buhari, as an outgoing president, does not carry as much weight as he used to carry. Okay. Jide,
sorry, I'm going to stop you there, because when you say he doesn't carry as much weight, as far as we're concerned, he's still the president, he's still presiding over the activities. We saw him in Lagos State, we've seen him in Kwara State, commissioning lots of things. So he's still in the capacity to control the country until there's a new election and until there's a handover. You also talked about the fact that despite trying to control the lingering fuel crisis, the president has been amazed. Now, Tinubu alludes to the fact that some people are doing all this. Now, the president, when you look at the new naira note, was the one who approved for the disbursement of new naira notes. If you also look at the fuel scarcity, he's still the one, even though he's not the one making the fuel scarce, but he's in charge of it. So is this a sabotage from the federal government? And do you see some kind of cracks between the APC? Because when he says he's blaming powerful people, the powerful people right now in government are members of his party. So who exactly is this sabotage coming from?
Okay. Yes, the president is still in power till May 29. But like I tried to explain, he's counting down to his exit, and he's not a contestant in this election.
So does that mean that because he's counting down, he would not do the necessary things he needs to do?
Recall that when the Petroleum Industry Act was signed into law circa 2021 August or September, they had to suspend the implementation of the deregulation of the PMS, which is the petrol. The motive then from some of us is that they want to be able to subsidize the PMS till after the election, which is to enhance the chances of APC to win in the forthcoming election. So if Buhari has about 6 trillion was spent to subsidize fuel last year, and if in spite of that, the fuel is not available, there is definitely Tinubu will be correct to smell sabotage. But this sabotage is not from the president. And I believe he's not alluding to the fact that it is President Buhari that is sabotaging him. I believe what he's alluding to is that there are powerful forces either within the APC or even outside of it that are colluding to ensure that the hardship that Nigerians are undergoing in the lead up to 2023 election does not abate. And it's not impossible. I just gave you the example of what was alleged to have been done in 2014, 2015 with the abduction of the Chibok girls, which many people accused Goodluck Jonathan administration for not doing the needful to stop that. And on the new naira note, it's a tragedy of good intention. When President Muhammadu Buhari approved the redesigning of the new naira note in October 2022, the assumption is that it was going to be a seamless exercise. And many people bought into it. I gave several media interviews supporting that redesign of naira note. Unfortunately, it has blown back on all of us now, because these new naira notes are not just available even at the dispensing machines, the ATMs. At POS, up to today, many Nigerians have not been able to access it. And of course, Emefiele, governor of Central Bank, has insisted that there will be no shift in the January 31 deadline for swapping of old naira notes for new one. So Tinubu has every cause to be jittery, because aside from the fact that he may not have money or be able to have sufficient cash of the new naira notes to buy votes, the hardship people are generally passing through, the unemployment, the economic hardship, may make many people not to vote for APC. And he is the standard bearer of APC. So definitely, this is the period that things need to be calm in the economic sector, in the power sector, so that on February 25, people will vote for the ruling party.
Okay, now, Jide, sorry to bother you there. I'm going to come in from there, because you're talking about the new naira note, and I will still insist again that it's the president and the CBN governor who is still insisting that despite the January 31 deadline, despite a lot of people complaining that there is no circulation of notes, this January 31 deadline must still go on. Now, you brought out a point, and you said that this new naira note is going to curb vote buying. I mean, the circulation of money during election period, vote buying and vote selling. Do you actually believe that this redesigned naira note will curb vote buying in Nigeria?
To an extent, it will, but all things being equal. The reason why I say all things being equal is that there are even wild allegations that while the new naira notes are not available to the ordinary citizens, politicians have mopped up the new naira notes because of their influence. They are politically exposed persons. Some of them, or many of them, have interest in the money deposit banks. So even if they want 10 billion, they can easily get it. Because even the CBN at the express shop, that in spite of the amount of new naira note pumped into circulation, that many money deposit banks are not even giving out this new cash to their customers, which means that there is sabotage in it. So you don't blame the policy per se. It is the implementation and the saboteurs in the system, because we are talking of 28th day to election. New naira notes are supposed to be available to all and sundry by now. This is a policy that came into being in October 2022. They said we should bring our old naira notes by December 15. We shall start getting new naira notes. But you could see the stickiness, the tardiness in the implementation of this policy. So much so that a month into, December 15 to January 15 will make it a month. Today is January 28th. This is quite like 6 weeks after the new naira notes should have flooded the markets, should have been in circulation. It is still as scarce as the petrol that we had earlier discussed, which means that some people have possibly mopped up this new naira note, ordered it, and created panic and economic sabotage within the country, which will make the APC government look bad, look incompetent, look unpatriotic. So I think Tinubu was just expressing his frustration. And don't forget, let me put this on notice. When the party primary of APC was going to be held, Rita, you will recall that on the eve of that primary in June, if my memory serves me right, in June 2022, the chairman of APC addressed the National Working Committee and said, Mr. President has endorsed the President of the Senate, Dr. Ahmed Lawan, as the preferred candidate of the party. Only the APC Governors Forum went to meet the president on the evening of that day to prevail on the president to withdraw that notice and throw the process, the party primary open. And that was how Bola Ahmed Tinubu emerged victorious at the expense of purported preferred candidate of the presidency. So if you take it from that time, there may be some amount of truth in what Tinubu is saying, that maybe those who didn't want him to emerge as the standard bearer of APC may be working with elements in the opposition to frustrate the economic policy of this administration in order to make the government look bad and to make them lose the next presidential election on February 25, 2023.
Now, still looking at this new naira note, you alluded to the fact that some people are actually holding the new naira notes. And the reason why there was a new naira note is to curb vote buying, which is somehow not still helping it. So since the purpose of the new naira note is being defeated, do you think there should still be an extension? Because we saw the House of Rep chairperson, that's Femi Gbajabiamila, and he kicked against it and told the CBN governor to appear before the House of Reps, or there'll be an issue, or they would issue an arrest warrant. And they are calling on him to increase it till June. So do you think there's still any need for this extension, since the purpose of this redesign naira note is somewhat defeated?
Yeah, to an extent, I agree with you, and you're on the same page with me. That, there is element of sabotage in all of this. And the sabotage may not actually be coming from Emefiele, who insisted that the swapping of the new naira notes for the old one will end on January 31st. It may actually be politicians within an asset of government. You see, there could be enemy within who just wanted to frustrate the ambition of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the next president of Nigeria. And this is not impossible within the political circle. But let me address the angle of whether this new naira note can help to curb vote buying. I said yes, it can. And it depends on the way it is implemented. If there is full implementation, strict implementation, yes, it may. But don't forget that politicians have witnessed, and I've observed election in Nigeria since 1999. This is 24 years of doing that. And I tell you for free that if politicians do not have cash to give to electorate to buy their vote, they can go cashless. They can actually transfer. I saw it in Osun in 2018, where people's bank details were being collected with the purpose of transferring, Ekiti in 2018, where people's bank details were being collected with the hope of transferring money to their account at a later date. So you can still make those transfers. 5,000. Who will ask you why you are making those transfers? You can do things out of charity. And when you look at even the activities that restrict vote buying at the polling unit, it says that it should just not happen within 300 meters of the polling unit. So anything that happens outside of that 300 meters could still be legit. So people could have been withdrawing millions in tranches with the hope of using it to buy votes. So it all would depend on strict implementation of the cashless policy, of the withdrawal limit, of assessing the new naira note. But there is no smoke without fire. Actually, Bola Ahmed Tinubu is an heavyweight politician, and he has his ears to the ground. And he knows what could be going on within and outside of the presidency. These are people who have a media conglomerate, who have friends in and out of government. So they receive privileged information. And I think we should not discountenance what he has said in Abeokuta about the possible sabotage of his presidential ambition. It is in the nature and character of politicians to eat their own intestines, if I can use that Yoruba illustration.
Okay, now
so they can find that. Yes.
All right, Jide, still looking at different postulations, because you've given somewhat a reason why the presidential candidate of the APC would be somewhat jittery, looking at the fact that this fuel scarcity, of which we are claiming, or rather he is claiming, that sabotaging the APC government, and of course this circulation of the naira notes. Now, you still talked about people hoarding millions of naira, and for some other Nigerians, there's a different postulation, of which people are saying, why would he be jittery? Because there was also a period in 2019 where there was a bullion van saga, and then there was a bullion van who went to his house. Now, we saw a minister come live, and he said that the bullion van was a mistake, mistakenly went into his home. So there are still different postulations. We have one, Bola Tinubu might be jittery because it puts a dent on the APC government, but there's still another postulation of which people are saying, are you also into vote buying? Is this the reason why you're jittery about the fuel scarcity and the scarcity of the naira notes? What's your take on that?
Well, PDP can put whatever spin they want on the statement of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but what I do know for a fact is that, as I said earlier on, sabotage, intrigues, backbiting, backstabbing are part of political game. It's like a game of chess. You anticipate your enemy, you strike, and in order to take advantage. So this could be strategy. And you know, there is element of enemy within. Don't forget, I gave you the illustration of the very powerful group within APC who are opposed to the presidential ambition of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And there have been insinuations to the effect that some northern powerful elites, some powerful northern elites rather, do not want power to change hands. They want power to retain, power to remain in the north. And if power will remain in the north, only the person who could gain maximally from that power must stay in the north agenda if one exists, is Atiku Abubakar. Because in 2019, Atiku Abubakar, despite fighting for the seat of president with an incumbent, was able to garner 11 million plus votes, while the president garnered 15 million votes. So it's already a known quantity, and he has pan-Nigeria folks, friends, colleagues, political loyalists and all of that. So if there is an agenda to have the next president coming from the northeastern Nigeria, which some people have made the argument that after Tafawa Balewa, the power has never shifted to northeast since the First Republic. And it's a genuine concern, just like we Southerners are making claim that the Southeast have been shut out of the political equation of Nigeria by not being allowed to be president since 1960. So the argument has been in support of having somebody from Northeast Nigeria and Southeast Nigeria. And if the agenda of the powerful political elite of Northern extraction is for power to remain in the North, then they can do anything to sabotage President Muhammadu Buhari's policy in order to make to pave way for Atiku's victory. That is a possibility. It's a scenario that cannot be discountenanced. And that's why I'm saying that you don't underrate, an Asiwaju who has many political godsons and daughters who are holding powerful political offices, including the office of the Vice President of Nigeria. These are his mentees. These are his political acolytes. These are his people who see him as their godfather. So if he has them in corridors of power and they have told him or whispered some things to him, he could have echoed it at Abeokuta, which means he's reading political undertone to the lingering fuel scarcity, as well as the holding of the new naira note. So nothing should be taken off the table in all of this. Politics is a game, and it's a game of numbers, it's a game of intrigues, it's a game of backbiting, it's a game of backstabbing, it's a game of pull him down, pull her down, PhD. Their own PhD is pull him down or pull her down. So you see all of that manifesting. Should
we be having such kind of politics? Because if you're talking about sabotage and you talk about accusation, there's not just the PDP who has been attacking the APC. We've also seen series of tweets and talks, statements, even from the APC Presidential Council, also giving kickbacks on the PDP presidential candidate and also attacking him. So it's not just the APC. So should we have this kind of politics in Nigeria? Because the two sides now have accused each other. We've seen corruption on one side. We've also seen the other one accusing the APC of meddling in drug trafficking. So it's not just the PDP who is attacking the APC.
Well, again, unfortunately, in spite of the peace accord that was signed by all the presidential candidates and their national chairman on September 29, 2022, we have seen a lot of fake news, a lot of hate speeches, a lot of rhetorics, a lot of incendiary and inflammatory comments. So it's not actually peculiar to Nigeria, if I may say. Even in other African countries, in Europe, in America, you could see the bitter feud between Joe Biden and Donald Trump ahead of November 2020 presidential election in the US, and the kind of rhetorics that was said about each other and all of that. So this is the stock in trade of politicians. They attack each other, their spokesmen, their what do they call it now? Their attack dogs. They are ready to do the dirty work. So we should not be seeing this. This is 24 years since the commencement of this Fourth Republic. One will not expect that we will still be having this kind of rhetorics this kind of attacks on personality rather than facing issues. But again, we have to live with it. What can we do? The law enforcement agents who are supposed to bring them to order has done. I recall that on November 17, 2022, the Inspector General of Police was so worried and so frustrated that he had to summon all the leadership of the 18 political parties and remonstrated against them for the political violence. As at that time, the Inspector General of Police put it, the number of incidents recorded at 52 across 22 states. And, I want all the politicians to desist from this violence and verbal attacks and all of that. And as if that was not enough, just last Friday, a week ago, the National Peace Committee again summoned or invited the presidential candidates to another round of meeting in Abuja, where they pleaded with them to tone down their rhetorics and to allow peace to reign ahead of the election. So it shows political immaturity that 24 years into this democracy, we still have this kind of verbal attacks, and even asking on INEC facility. The serial attacks on INEC offices across the country has been a cause of concern. So much so that there are attempts now to, not attempts, there are insinuations that if the tension and the attacks on INEC facility does not update, the election might actually be postponed.
Well,
so
we'll definitely...
that's another line of sabotage that you should take cognizance of.
Well, as I said earlier on, sabotage can still come from the two sides. It's just one side sabotaging the other side. But we will definitely hope and see that the democracy in Nigeria gets better. And then we do away with all this verbal abuse, war of words going on in this electioneering period. Thank you so much, Jide Ojo, for joining us on this conversation.
It's my pleasure. Stay safe and stay blessed.